Alright, so here's a video detailing the Summonite series. Chances are you've probably never heard of this series. Most of it was never released outside of Japan. However, this series actually did have 4 games that were actually released outside of Japan, so at least part of the series was released. So at least we kind of get indication that the game does in fact exist, compared to like some other ones. So if you've never played the Summonite series, essentially what the Summonite series is, there's 13 games in all. There's 2 series, part of the games. There's the main series and the side games. Much like a lot of other games, there's a lot of other games that do stuff like this. The Summonite games, there's 6 main games. Again, Summonite 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And then there's 7 side games, which I will get into. There's Summonite 1 and 2, which was released originally for the PS1, again, not released outside of Japan. Then they remade 1 and 2 for the DS, again, not released outside of Japan. Then you had Summonite 3 and 4 that was released for the PS2, again, talking about the main series first. That was then later re-released for the PlayStation Portable, which, if you check out my channel, I have recorded some of Summonite 3 and 4. I'm still working on the other ones. Bear with me here. But again, that was never released outside of Japan. Summonite 5 was released for the PSP, but it was actually released outside of Japan as of last year, I believe, in English. The game's been out ever since 2015, if I'm not mistaken. Somewhere around there. I'll have to take a look at the actual release dates and the order of the games, and if there is a timeline that the games go into. And then you had Summonite 6, which just came out in Japan last year, but it's going to be getting released in English. And let me tell you, it's worth it. It's worth the money. It's a fun game. It really is. If you love the main series, again, if you've never played Summonite 1 through 5, you'll be shocked. Here's a really interesting. Summonite 6 is actually for the PS Vita rather than the PSP and the PS4. So it's actually a fun game. It really is. I'm not sure how much more content it is in the other versions. As far as I'm aware, they're pretty much the same, except for the remakes. They kind of get more stuff in them. Kind of not really too much more content, but they're still, you can go on Amazon and get these games for like not even $10. A few of them might actually be $20, and I'm not sure why, but you won't be disappointed if you can actually make sense of what's going on in these games. These games are actually worth playing. I highly recommend them. Like I said before, and then all the other side games, like, you don't have to really worry about them having remakes because they're pretty much just released on one console. Then you have Summonite 1, 2, and 3 Swordcraft Story, which are side games, but they're sequels to each other, and they were released on the Game Boy Advance. Then you had Twin Age and X Crown, or Tears Crown, or something like that, for the DS. And then there was 2 more of them on the PS2. I cannot remember what they're called. Well, no, wait, I think one of them was called Granthias or something like that, and then the other one was like a dungeon crawler, kind of like inspired by the Tales series. Again, I'm still a little confused because I always forget it. I think it was like Summonite X or something like that, like Dungeon something, kind of like if you've ever played the Tales series, like Tales of Fantasia, Nariki Dungeon X or something like that, for the PSP. It's kind of like something like that, like the title at least. I'll have to look it up. Anyways. So, the Summonite games that were released outside of Japan were Summonite 1 and 2 Swordcraft Story 1 and 2, Summonite 5, and then Twin Age. And then there was Summonite 1, 2, 3, and 4 were never released outside of Japan in the main series, and then Summonite 6 is going to. So, pretty much up until this point, any like kind of like the Tales series, like Tales of Rebirth was never released outside of Japan. The real Tales of Destiny 2 was never released outside of Japan. Tales of, Radiant Mythology 2 and 3, Tales of Fantasia and the PSP. The list goes on, but that's another story for another time. So if you really want, so pretty much just think of it like this: any Summonite game at this point will probably get a localization. So. Summonite 6 isn't out in English yet. It's coming out on May 23rd, so next month that I make this video, I think it's actually 1 month from today, actually. Unless, of course, it's not the 23rd that I know of. What a strange coincidence that is. Anyways, Summonite, but anyways, Summonite 6 is really interesting. All the Summonite games are sequels to each other as far as the main series goes. I do not know where the side games fit into the timeline. I do know this, for example, though. If you've ever played any of these Summonite games, they all take place in the same universe. The main world that the Summonite games take place in is and bear with me here, it's called Lim, like, oh jeez, how do you pronounce it? It's Lind, so like Lynd and then Buam or something like that. It's like Lindbum or something like that. Someone pronounce it for me. I always struggle with this, but it's a beautiful, like, it's like a steampunk. According to Wikipedia, it's like a steampunk, and I can, like I said, I'll pull up a lot of Japanese. I'll pull up the Japanese wikis and give you every single game in detail. But I'll tell you this though: if you've ever played Disgaea, if you've ever played the Summonite series, like on the PS1 and all that, well, if you've ever played the games, you'll know what they're about. They're, even if you don't know Japanese 100%, you can still play the games and just kind of catch on to them. They're really fun games. Like, if you like Fire Emblem, think of it like this: if you've ever played Fire Emblem and like all the characters you can get and all the different endings you can get, think of it like this: the Summonite series. I'll use Summonite 3 as an example, because I'm mostly familiar with Summonite 3 because I've been playing the hell out of Summonite 3, and I beat Summonite 4, so I can kind of verify it. The way the Summonite series works is that there's multiple characters that you can get in the game. Mostly usually about 30, 20 characters, and that's still a very large portion when you really think of how many endings there are. If you love visual novels, which are another form of Japanese entertainment or Asian entertainment, they're pretty much just story-driven games with they essentially are like video games brought to life in a story aspect, and they give you like all these paths, and you assume these roles of these characters. There's usually multiple endings. Characters can fall in love, and you know what I mean? It's really interesting, even for just a book-style video game. But at the same time, though, in Summonite, think of it like a visual novel, and then it has like dating elements, where like the characters can form relationships, have children. And Fire Emblem kind of did the same thing, but I think Summonite technically did it better because, you know, here's the thing that's really interesting about Summonite. As far as I'm aware, there's really no way to get all the endings, even with one. You know how like usually when there's a game that like requires like one save file or two save files, and then some people like usually will save up to a certain point and then just keep playing the game until they get all the endings. You know, like that trick. As far as I'm aware, that does not work in Summonite. And what's really interesting though is there's also what is known as night conversations, like so in order to build up a relationship with a character, up until certain points in every Summonite game from the beginning to the end of the story, you get these depending on the characters you can have these conversations with them, and they form relationships, and eventually whoever's got the most affection at the end of the game, you can choose to get their ending or just go with a simple ending. But that's how the Summonite games always were, though. You know, they give you this really fun game to play, and they're fully functional games. You know, they're not. Except in Summonite 4, you're going to have to watch out. There's a glitch at the end of Chapter 10. It crashes the game for some reason. I mean, I'm not sure if you just play it on an emulator it does it, or if it's actually in the game too, but you have to skip the text. You got to skip it like really fast. I've already got a video on YouTube on how to do that. I'm still not really sure 100% like what causes the glitch, if it's a emulator glitch, but if you skip the cutscene, it actually passes right through it, so that's good to know. But anyways, the way I look at it, all the Summonite games are awesome. If you've never played any of them, I mean, compared to like, you know, they might not be the greatest games of all time. Like, I mean, like, they're definitely not going to be games like Ocarina of Time or The Breath of the Wild to some people, to a lot of people, because they're not like that popular. But for a video game series that, I mean, like, if you love JRPGs, which are Japanese tactical role-playing games, if you want a game that, like, if you want a game that's like worth your time and money, if you want to spend money on a physical copy, don't be afraid to get a copy of these games. They're worth it. You know, any game that I've ever bought, I was happy to purchase the whole series. I really was. I probably spent like almost $200 getting all 13 games. And I gotta say, you know, the music is just really beautiful, and especially the woman. There's a woman by the name of, I can't even remember her name now. And like, it starts with an E. Her first name starts with an E, and her last name starts with a B. And she, as far as I'm aware, she sings all the songs, the ones with the lyrics, and like, I mean, you wouldn't even, she sings the opening theme song to Summon Night 3, 4, and 5. And there's also a song in the remakes of Summon Night 3 and beyond. It makes a cameo. It's called, it's like the theme. It's called Utopia. Or songs called Lin Bomb or something like that. Again, like the name of the actual main universe of Summon Night. Aside, and that's the thing, there's other universes too in Summon Night, like all these creatures come from like certain worlds, and the game explains this too. It's really cool. It's for Japanese fantasy, it's, you know, it's got a lot of imagination behind it. Kind of like if you've ever like seen movies like Willy Wonka, and people said like Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory with Gene Wilder. You know, that was a movie that had like a really cool imagination and all that. And the same thing can be said about like, you know, Summon Night. There's a lot of imagination that went into this game. I'm not kidding you. These games are really creative. And so if you really would like to see like more content about this, I would recommend it. Summon Night 3 is pretty much about pirates. Summon Night 4 was about, well, like fighting off this corrupt, well, like every game, there's always a villain, major villain, a big badass group of rebels and shit like that. Summon Night 4 was really interesting, you know. And let me tell you something, these games can be difficult too. They could even give Fire Emblem a run for their money if you like tactical JRPGs. So anyways, the way I look at it, the company that owns Summon Night, they were made by a company called Flight Plan, and then that company was then soon owned by Banpresto, and then eventually Banpresto still exists. These companies still exist, but they were bought off by, as the publisher, Namco Bandai now owns the rights to them for publishing. So, I mean, at least Namco lets them still make the game, so, you know, you can't really go wrong there. So, that's just to kind of give you a little idea what these games are about. If you're interested in watching Summon Night games, again, please look forward to a translation. I'll be starting with Summon Night 3. Because it's just the easiest one for me to record at the moment, and I'm mostly familiar with Summon Night 3, but I'll explain everything else there. But if you're really interested in these videos, I'll be doing what is known as review and history, where I kind of talk about the game. This is just pretty much just to acknowledge that the games exist and to bring it to your attention. So if you're watching this video and it said video games you've never heard of and you've heard of the Summon Night series, well, it's just to kind of get people's attention with it, because I know there's people out there that would love to know these games exist if they actually knew they existed. So again, like I said, I'll do the best I can, but starting today, I'm going to be translating Summon Night 3 for sure. You know, it's a beautiful series, it really is. So if you've never played these games and you love JRPGs, believe me, just give me some moments of your time and I'll do the best I can to convince you to buy a copy, or, you know, to just, you know, try them out. You know, you can get them off the internet for free, you know, because in that day and age, everything's... But again, you know, like I said, I'd recommend buying the games too, because, I mean, when they come out at least, because the company themselves could make a lot of money if they haven't already. But anyways, like I said, guys, comment, rate, and subscribe, favorite, share this video. And yeah, if you guys got any requests on any video games you want me to talk about, go for it. I'll be glad to make a video about it.